Park Hyun walked through the long white halls of the Galactic Medical Academy. His shoes made soft sounds on the metal floor. Around him, strange creatures moved in all directions. Some had 4 arms. Others had skin that looked like glass. A few floated in the air without touching the ground. Hyun was the only human in his class. This made him feel lonely sometimes. The other students were taller, stronger, or smarter than him. They had machines that could see inside bodies without cutting them open. They had tools that could fix broken bones in seconds. Hyun only had his books and his hands. The academy sat on a space station near a bright star. Through the big windows, Hyun could see other ships coming and going. Students from hundreds of worlds came here to learn medicine. This was the best medical school in the galaxy. Today was different. Today they would work with real patients for the first time. Hyun entered the practice room. It was huge, with white walls and bright lights everywhere. In the center stood Dr. Xanthara, their teacher. She had 6 eyes and long arms that moved like snakes. Her skin was purple and smooth. She was a helix, a race known for being very smart about medicine. "Good morning, students," Dr. Xanthara said. Her voice came from a small box on her chest because humans could not hear her real voice. "Today you will practice on real beings, not fake ones." The students made excited sounds. Some chirped like birds. Others made low humming noises. Hyun just nodded quietly. Near the back of the room stood a group of tall, thin creatures. They looked like they were made of clear crystal. These were the Valkyrie students. Their names were Zenth, Morphia, and Quill. They thought they were better than everyone else because their people had the most advanced medical tools in the galaxy. "We will show you how bioresonance healing works," Zenth said to the class. His voice sounded like music, high and clear. "Our method can fix any heart problem without touching the patient." In the center of the room lay a huge being on a metal table. This was Vorthak, a Thraxian. He was twice as tall as Hyun and covered in thick gray skin that looked like armor. His chest was as wide as a door. Thraxians were hard to treat because their hearts worked differently from most other creatures. "The Thraxian heart has 3 parts, Dr. Xanthara explained. It does not beat like human hearts. Instead, it makes electric signals to pump blood. This makes them very hard to heal when something goes wrong." Vorthak lay very still. He had agreed to let the students practice on him. This was not dangerous, or so everyone thought. Zenth and his friends set up their machines around Vorthak. The machines were small and silver, floating in the air without any support. They hummed softly and glowed with blue light. Bioresonance uses sound waves to fix problems inside the body, Morphia explained. She touched a crystal panel and the machines began to glow brighter. "We do not need to cut or touch the patient at all." Other students gathered around to watch. There were Aquarians named Kira and Juno, who looked like humans but had gills on their necks for breathing underwater. Their skin was blue-green and always looked wet. "Humans still cut people open with knives," Kira whispered to Juno, looking at Hyun. "How primitive." Juno laughed quietly. "I heard they use their hands to fix broken bones." "Can you believe that?" Hyun heard them but said nothing. He had learned not to argue with the other students. They would just laugh at him more. The Valkyrie students began their work. The floating machines moved closer to Vorthak's chest. The blue light got brighter and brighter. The humming sound got louder. "Watch carefully," Quill said. "We will make his heart work better than before." But something was wrong. The machines started to shake. The blue light began to flicker. Sparks flew from one of the devices. "What is happening?" Dr. Xanthara asked, moving closer with her long arms. Zenth touched his crystal panel faster and faster. "I do not know. The machines are not responding." More sparks flew. One of the machines fell to the floor with a loud crash. The others began to spin wildly in the air. Suddenly, Vorthak's body jumped on the table. His eyes flew open wide, then closed again. His massive chest stopped moving up and down. "His heart has stopped," Dr. Xanthara shouted. All 6 of her eyes opened wide with fear. The room filled with noise. Students made scared sounds in their own languages. Some ran toward the doors. Others just stood and stared. Dr. Xanthara pressed buttons on a wall panel. Machines came down from the ceiling. Lights flashed red and yellow. A loud alarm began to ring. "Emergency medical protocol starting," a voice said from speakers in the walls. The ceiling machines scanned Vorthak's body with different colored lights. Numbers and pictures appeared on screens around the room. All of them showed the same thing. Vorthak's heart had completely stopped working. "Try the electric shock machine," Dr. Xanthara ordered. A student pressed a button. 2 metal plates came down and touched Vorthak's chest. Electricity flowed through his body, making it jump. But nothing happened. His heart stayed still. Try the chemical injection, the teacher said. Another machine pushed a needle into Vorthak's arm. Medicine flowed into his blood. Still nothing. Use the magnetic field generator, Dr. Xanthara said, her voice getting more worried. A large ring came down and surrounded Vorthak's body. It hummed and glowed, trying to restart his heart with magnetism. The screens showed no change. The Velkari students stood frozen, watching their machines smoke and spark on the floor. They had no idea what to do. Why is nothing working? Kira asked, her gills opening and closing fast with fear. Thraxian hearts are too different, Dr. Xanthara said sadly. Our machines cannot fix what they do not understand. More and more emergency machines came down from the ceiling. They tried everything: sound waves, light beams, chemical sprays, electric fields. Nothing worked. Vorthak's body lay still and quiet. I am afraid there is nothing more we can do, Dr. Xanthara said after 10 minutes. The student is lost. The room became very quiet. Even the alarm stopped ringing. Students looked at each other with sad, scared faces. The most advanced medical school in the galaxy could not save one patient. But in the back of the room, Park Hyun was not giving up. He stared at Vorthak's still chest and remembered something from his human medical books, something old and simple that everyone else had forgotten. He started walking toward the table where Vorthak lay. The other students watched him with surprise. What could a primitive human do that their advanced machines could not? Park Hyun pushed through the crowd of students. They moved away from him, surprised that the quiet human was doing anything at all. Some whispered to each other in their strange languages. Others just stared. Student Park, what are you doing? Dr. Xanthara asked. Her 6 eyes followed him as he walked to the table where Vorthak lay. I want to try something, Hyun said quietly. He looked down at the massive Thraxian. Vorthak's skin was thick and gray like stone. His chest was wide and still. No breath moved in or out of his lungs. There is nothing to try, Xanth said. His crystal-like face showed anger and embarrassment. If our bioresonance machines cannot fix him, nothing can. Hyun did not answer. He put his hands on Vorthak's chest. The skin felt cold and hard under his palms. The other students gasped. In their cultures, touching a patient with bare hands was very old-fashioned and dirty. He is touching the patient, Kira said with disgust. That is so primitive. Humans still think their hands can do what machines cannot, Juno added, shaking her blue-green head. Dr. Xanthara watched with interest. She had studied many different types of medicine. What are you attempting, Student Park? CPR, Hyun said. Chest compressions. We learned this in basic human medical training. He placed one hand on top of the other and pushed down hard on Vorthak's chest. The massive body barely moved. Thraxian skin was much thicker than human skin. But Hyun kept pushing, counting in his head. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is ridiculous, Morphia said. You cannot restart an electromagnetic heart by pushing on it with your hands. But Hyun remembered his classes on Earth. His teacher had told him that all hearts, no matter how different, needed one thing: pressure changes to move blood. Thraxian hearts might use electricity, but they still needed blood flow to work. He pushed harder. His hands began to hurt against Vorthak's armor-like skin. Sweat ran down his face from the effort. His heart has 3 chambers, Hyun said between pushes, but they still need pressure to work. The electricity comes from the pressure changes. Dr. Xanthara's eyes opened wider. She looked at the screens showing Vorthak's body. Interesting theory, but our machines tried pressure therapy already. Your machines pushed from outside, Hyun said, not stopping his compressions. I am pushing the right spot to make pressure inside the heart chambers. Some students laughed. Others looked confused. How could this human know something that their advanced computers did not? Hyun had studied Thraxian anatomy for weeks, not with fancy scanning machines, but with old books and pictures. He had memorized where each heart chamber was located. He knew exactly where to push. 15, 16, 17, 18. His hands were getting tired, but he did not stop. In human medicine, CPR had to continue for a long time to work. Sometimes it took 30 minutes or more. You are wasting time, Quill said. The patient is already dead. He is not dead until I say he is dead, Hyun replied firmly. More students gathered around to watch. Some had never seen anything like this before. A primitive human, using only his hands, trying to do what the galaxy's most advanced machines could not do. Dr. Xanthara studied her screens more carefully. "Wait," she said slowly. "I am seeing very small changes in his blood flow." The students became quiet. They looked at the screens showing Vorthak's body. "That is impossible," Xanth said. "Electromagnetic hearts do not respond to manual pressure." "Look at Chamber 3, Dr. Xanthara said, pointing to a screen. "There is slight movement." Hyun kept pushing on Vorthak's chest. His hands were starting to bleed. The Thraxian's rough skin was cutting his palms, but he did not stop. 28, 29, 30. "Breathe," he said, tilting Vorthak's massive head back. He put his mouth near the Thraxian's nose and tried to push air into his lungs. "That is disgusting," Kira said. "He is putting his mouth on the patient." "Mouth-to-mouth resuscitation," Dr. Xanthara said with understanding. "Another ancient human technique." Hyun gave 2 breaths, then went back to chest compressions. His arms ached, but he had been trained to never give up. Human doctors on Earth sometimes did CPR for hours to save a life. 1, 2, 3, 4. Some of the other students started to look interested instead of disgusted. They could see the numbers on the screens changing slightly. Something was happening inside Vorthak's body. "The pressure in Chamber 1 is increasing," Dr. Xanthara reported. "But that should be impossible," Morpheus said. "Thraxian hearts are electromagnetic, not mechanical." "Maybe they are both," Hyun said between compressions. "Maybe the electricity starts when the chambers get the right pressure." This was a new idea. All the textbooks said Thraxian hearts were purely electromagnetic. But what if they were wrong? What if the electricity needed mechanical pressure to start working? Hyun had been doing compressions for 8 minutes. His hands were bleeding more now. His arms felt like they were on fire. But the screens showed more changes. Blood was starting to move through Vorthak's body again. "Chamber 2 is responding," Dr. Xanthara said with excitement. The Velkari students looked at each other with confusion. Their advanced understanding of Thraxian physiology was being challenged by a human using ancient techniques. "This cannot be right," Xanth said. "We know how Thraxian hearts work, do you?" Hyun asked, still pushing on Vorthak's chest. "Or do you just know what your machines tell you?" Dr. Xanthara began to understand. "We have always studied Thraxian hearts with scanners and computers. We never touched them directly. Human doctors cut open bodies to learn," Hyun said. "We touch organs with our hands. We feel how they work." This was true. Human medicine was still very physical. Human doctors learned by touching, cutting, and examining real bodies. Other species used machines for everything. 10, 11, 12, 13. More students gathered around. Even some teachers had come to see what was happening. Word was spreading through the academy that a human was trying to restart a Thraxian heart with his bare hands. "Chamber 3 is activating," Dr. Xanthara announced. The screens showed more activity. Vorthak's blood was flowing better. His body temperature was rising slightly. "Impossible," Quill whispered. But Hyun knew it was not impossible. He had read about cases like this in human medical journals. Sometimes the old ways worked when new technology failed. Sometimes simple was better than complex. 14, 15, 16. His hands were very bloody now. Some students looked sick watching him. But Hyun did not care about the blood or the pain. He only cared about saving Vorthak's life. "All 3 chambers are showing activity," Dr. Xanthara said, her voice full of amazement. The room became very quiet except for the sound of Hyun counting and the beeping of machines. Everyone watched the screens that showed Vorthak's heart slowly starting to work again. After 12 minutes of continuous chest compressions, something amazing happened. The screens around the room suddenly lit up with bright colors. Numbers jumped and changed quickly. A loud beeping sound filled the air. "Electromagnetic signature detected," Dr. Xanthara shouted with excitement. Park Hyun felt something change under his bloody hands. Vorthak's chest made a deep humming sound like electricity moving through metal. The thick skin under Hyun's palms began to vibrate slightly. "I can feel it," Hyun said, not stopping his compressions. "His heart is trying to start." The students pressed closer to see the screens. Even the Velkari, who had been angry and embarrassed, watched with wide crystal eyes. "Chamber 1 is generating electrical activity," Dr. Xanthara read from her instruments. "This is remarkable." Hyun continued pushing on Vorthak's chest, but now he could feel the heart responding. Each compression created a small electrical pulse that grew stronger and stronger. "You see?" Hyun said to the other students. Thraxian hearts need pressure first, then electricity comes after. Your machines tried to make electricity without pressure. That is why they failed. Zenth looked confused and upset. But our studies show that Thraxian hearts are purely electromagnetic. Your studies used machines to look from outside, Hyun explained, still working. You never felt the heart with your hands. You never touched it directly. This was the difference between human medicine and alien medicine. Humans still use their hands to examine patients. They still cut open bodies to see how organs really worked. Other species relied completely on their advanced scanners and computers. 26, 27, 28. Hyun counted. Dr. Zanthara studied her instruments carefully. Student Park, can you explain your reasoning? How did you know this would work? Hyun gave Vorthak 2 more rescue breaths, then returned to chest compressions. I read old human books about Thraxian anatomy. The books said their hearts have pressure chambers, just like human hearts. The electricity comes from the pressure changes. But that information is hundreds of years old, Morpheus said. We have much better knowledge now. Sometimes old knowledge is correct knowledge, Hyun replied. Sometimes new machines miss simple truths. The beeping from the monitors got faster and louder. Vorthak's heart was definitely responding. Each compression from Hyun's hands created stronger electrical signals. Chamber 2 is fully active, Dr. Zanthara announced. Other students began to understand what was happening. The quiet human had found something that all their advanced technology had missed. Thraxian hearts were not just electromagnetic, they were mechanical too. 30, 31, 32. Hyun kept counting. His arms felt like they were going to fall off. His hands were cut and bleeding from Vorthak's rough skin, but he could feel the heart getting stronger under his palms. The vibrations were getting more regular. Suddenly, the door to the practice room opened. 2 more humans walked in. They wore the blue uniforms of exchange students from Earth. Their names were Lee Dae and Kim Sol. What is happening here? Lee Dae asked, seeing the crowd around the table. Hyun is restarting a Thraxian heart with CPR, Dr. Zanthara explained quickly. Kim Sol's eyes went wide. By himself? For how long? 15 minutes so far, the teacher replied. Both humans immediately understood. They ran to the table to help their friend. I will take over compressions, Lee Dae said. You are getting tired. No, Hyun said firmly. I can feel his heart responding to my rhythm. If I stop now, it might not restart. Kim Sol looked at the monitors. His heart is really working again. All 3 chambers are active, Dr. Zanthara confirmed. This is incredible. Kim Sol moved to Vorthak's head. I will help with breathing. Thraxians can hear through bone conduction even when unconscious. I will talk to him. She began speaking softly to Vorthak in his own language. She had studied Thraxian communication in her exchange program. Vorthak, can you hear me? We are helping you. Your heart is starting to work again. Stay with us. The other students watched in amazement. 3 humans working together with simple, old techniques were doing what the galaxy's most advanced medical equipment could not do. 38, 39, 40. Hyun continued counting. Lee Dae prepared simple human medicines from his medical kit. These might help, he said. Human drugs work well on Thraxian biochemistry because we both use mineral-based blood chemistry. This was another thing the alien students had not known. They used complex synthetic medicines, but sometimes simple natural medicines worked better. Chamber 3 is approaching full power, Dr. Zanthara reported. The Aquarian students, Kira and Juno, looked embarrassed. They had been making fun of human medicine just minutes before. Maybe we were wrong about human techniques, Kira said quietly. They are not primitive, Juno agreed. They are just different. The Velkari students stood silent. Their expensive bioresonance machines lay broken on the floor. Meanwhile, 3 humans with their bare hands were saving a life. 45, 46, 47. Hyun kept going. Sweat covered his face. His hands were very bloody now. But he did not stop. In human medical training, they learned to never give up on a patient. Full electromagnetic activity in all chambers. Dr. Zanthara suddenly shouted. The monitors exploded with activity. Lights flashed. Numbers jumped across screens. The sound of Vorthak's heart filled the room like distant thunder. He is coming back, Kim Sol said with excitement. Vorthak's massive chest began to rise and fall on its own. His electromagnetic heart was working independently now, creating its own rhythm. You can stop compressions, Dr. Zanthara told Hyun. His heart is self-sustaining. But Hyun was careful. He slowly reduced the strength of his compressions, making sure the heart kept working on its own. Only when he was certain did he finally stop. His hands were shaking from exhaustion. Blood from his cuts dripped onto the floor. But he was smiling. His vital signs are stable, Dr. Xanthara announced to the room. The patient will recover completely. The room erupted in cheers and strange alien sounds of celebration. Students from many different worlds made their own types of happy noises. Vorthak's eyes slowly opened. He looked around with confusion, then focused on Park Hyun's bloody hands. "You," Vorthak said in his deep, rumbling voice. "You saved my life with your hands." Hyun nodded, too tired to speak much. Simple human medicine. Vorthak tried to sit up, but Dr. Xanthara stopped him. "Rest. You need time to recover." The massive Thraxian looked at the three humans who had saved him. "Your species hurts yourselves to help others. This is honorable." All around the room, alien students were looking at humans with new respect. The primitive medicine they had laughed at had just accomplished something their advanced technology could not do. "How did you know this would work?" Xanth asked Hyun. "I study with my hands, not just my eyes," Hyun replied. Sometimes the simple answer is the right answer. Dr. Xanthara was already planning changes to the Academy's curriculum. Today had taught everyone an important lesson about the value of old knowledge and simple techniques. 2 hours later, Vorthak sat up on the medical table. His gray skin had returned to its normal color. His three-chambered heart beat steadily with strong electromagnetic pulses that made the monitors beep in a healthy rhythm. He looked down at Park Hyun, who was having his cut hands bandaged by Lee Dae. The human's palms were wrapped in white cloth, but blood still showed through in some places. "Show me your hands," Vorthak said gently. Hyun held up his bandaged palms. Vorthak carefully took them in his massive hands, which were 3 times bigger than human hands. "You cut yourself on my skin to save my life," Vorthak said slowly. "In my culture, this makes you my life brother. I owe you a debt that can never be repaid." The other students watched this ceremony with interest. Thraxians rarely showed emotion, but Vorthak's voice was full of respect and gratitude. "You do not owe me anything," Hyun said simply. "I am training to be a doctor. Saving lives is what doctors do." But Vorthak shook his large head. "No, you are wrong. You gave your own blood to restart my heart. This is beyond duty. This is sacrifice." Dr. Xanthara approached them with all 6 of her eyes focused on Hyun. "Student Park, what you did today was extraordinary. I have been teaching medicine for 50 years and I have never seen anything like this." She turned to address the entire class. "Today we learned that advanced technology is not always the best solution. Sometimes the oldest methods are the most effective." The Velkari students looked uncomfortable. Xanth spoke for his group. "We apologize for our failure. Our bioresonance machines were not capable of understanding Thraxian physiology as well as we thought." "Your machines were not wrong," Hyun said kindly. "They just were not complete. Thraxian hearts need both pressure and electricity. Your machines only provided electricity." Morphia nodded slowly. "We focused on what we thought was advanced and ignored the basic principles." "We would like to learn your techniques," Quill added. "If you would teach us." This surprised everyone. The proud Velkari were asking a human to teach them medicine. Dr. Xanthara made a decision. "I am calling an emergency meeting of the Academy Council. This incident must be studied and learned from." Within an hour, the practice room was filled with the Academy's most important teachers and administrators. Rector Vashti arrived from the main campus. She was a cerebral, with a huge brain visible through her transparent skull. Her species was known for being the smartest in the galaxy. "Explain to me exactly what happened," Rector Vashti said, her telepathic voice speaking directly in everyone's mind. Dr. Xanthara showed the recordings of everything that had occurred. The council watched as the Velkari machines failed, as the Academy's emergency equipment proved useless, and as Park Hyun saved Vorthak's life with only his hands. "Remarkable," Rector Vashti said after watching the entire sequence. "The human student succeeded where our most advanced systems failed. How is this possible?" "Human medicine is still very physical," Dr. Xanthara explained. "They use their hands to examine patients. They cut open bodies to learn anatomy. They practice techniques that require direct contact. While we have become dependent on our machines," added Dr. Kalani, a teacher from the Nexari species, We scan everything from a distance. We never touch our patients directly. Rector Vashati studied Park Hyun with her large, intelligent eyes. Student Park, did you know your technique would work? I hoped it would work, Hyun answered honestly. I knew that all hearts need pressure to function, even electromagnetic ones. I thought maybe Thraxian hearts were similar to human hearts in some basic ways. And you were correct, the rector said. You understood something that our computers missed. Why do you think this happened? Hyun thought carefully before answering. Computers know facts, but they do not always understand connections between facts. I read old books written by doctors who had actually touched Thraxian hearts. The computers only had data from scanning machines. This made the council members look at each other with concern. Had they become too dependent on technology? Had they lost important knowledge by abandoning older methods? What do you recommend we do about this? Rector Vashiti asked Dr. Zanthara. I think we need to add human medical techniques to our curriculum, the teacher replied. Students should learn both advanced technology and basic manual skills. But manual techniques are so primitive, protested Dr. Shinrath, a teacher from the architect species. Surely our technology is superior. Superior technology failed today, Vorthak said from his medical bed. Simple hands succeeded. I am alive because a human was willing to use old knowledge. The council discussed this for a long time. Some members thought human techniques were too basic for an advanced medical academy. Others argued that today's events proved the value of combining old and new approaches. Finally, Rector Vashati made her decision. We will create a new course, Manual Biological Intervention. Student Park will help design the curriculum, and we will require all students to learn these techniques. The room buzzed with surprised sounds from many different species. The galaxy's most advanced medical school was going to teach primitive human medicine. Furthermore, the rector continued, we will establish a research partnership between Student Park and patient Vorthak to study hybrid healing techniques that combine manual skills with advanced technology. Vorthak smiled, which was unusual for a Thraxian. I would be honored to work with my life brother. Dr. Zanthara was excited about the possibilities. We could develop entirely new approaches to medicine. Imagine combining the precision of technology with the understanding that comes from physical examination. Over the next few days, news of the incident spread throughout the academy. Students from many different worlds came to meet Park Hyun, the human who had restarted a heart with his bare hands. The Aquarian students, Kira and Juno, apologized for making fun of human medicine. We were wrong to call your techniques primitive, Kira said. They are actually quite sophisticated. Different does not mean inferior, Juno added. We learned an important lesson. Today, even students from species that had never shown interest in human culture began asking questions about Earth's medical practices. How do human doctors learn without scanning machines? Asked an Exari student. They practice on artificial bodies first, then work with real patients under supervision, Hyun explained. They learn by doing, not just by reading. Word of the incident reached other medical schools throughout the galaxy. Some requested copies of human medical textbooks. Others sent representatives to observe the new classes being planned. Park Hyun found himself at the center of attention he had never wanted. But he was glad that his people's knowledge could help save lives across the galaxy. This is just the beginning, Dr. Zanthara told him. Your actions today will change how medicine is taught throughout known space. As Hyun looked around the academy that had once made him feel so lonely and primitive, he realized that sometimes being different was exactly what the galaxy needed. 6 months after the incident, the Galactic Medical Academy looked very different. In the same practice room where Vorthak had nearly died, students from dozens of worlds were learning to use their hands to save lives. Park Hyun stood at the front of the room, no longer the lonely outsider he had once been. He was now Professor Park, the youngest instructor in the academy's history. His hands had healed completely, leaving only thin scars as reminders of the day he had restarted a heart. Remember, he told his diverse class, your machines are tools, but your hands are instruments of understanding. You cannot truly know a patient until you have touched them. In the front row, a Nexari student named Takeshi raised one of his 4 arms. The insect-like being had become one of Hyun's best students. Professor Park, how do we know the right amount of pressure for different species? Takeshi asked. Practice and patience, Hyun replied. Each species is different, but the principles are the same. All hearts need pressure to function. All lungs need air to breathe. All blood needs to move. Behind Takeshi sat Vara, a flowing one who had learned to inhabit mechanical hands specifically for this class. The energy-based being glowed softly as she controlled her artificial limbs. "It is strange to have physical form," Vara said in her musical voice. "But I understand why touch is important. I can feel things with these hands that my energy sensors cannot detect." At another table, 3 architect students practiced CPR on training dummies. These proud crystalline beings had initially refused to learn primitive techniques, but after seeing the results, they had become some of the most dedicated students. "The pressure must be precise," one of them said, reshaping his crystal hands to better fit the dummy's chest. "Too little and nothing happens. Too much and we cause damage." Hyun walked between the tables watching his students work. It still amazed him how eager they were to learn human techniques that had once been considered backwards. At the back of the room, Vorthak worked with Lee Dae and Kim Sol on a special project. The massive Thraxian had become Hyun's research partner, helping to develop new hybrid healing methods. "The electromagnetic compression device is ready for testing," Vorthak announced. They had created a machine that combined human CPR techniques with Thraxian bioelectrical knowledge. It could provide both the pressure and the electrical stimulation needed to restart different types of hearts. "This could work on at least 12 different species," Lee Dae said, checking the readings on his screen. "And it requires much less training than pure manual techniques," Kim Sol added. "We could teach emergency responders across the galaxy to use it." Dr. Xanthara entered the classroom to observe the lesson. She still taught advanced xenobiology, but now she always included manual examination techniques in her courses. "How are the students progressing?" she asked Hyun. "Very well," he replied. "The Nixari are excellent at precise pressure techniques because of their multiple arms. The flowing ones bring a unique understanding of energy flow. Even the architects are learning to value physical contact." As if to prove his point, one of the architect students successfully restarted the heart simulation on his training dummy. The crystalline being made a sound of satisfaction that vibrated through the room. "Success," the student announced. "Manual cardiac resuscitation achieved." The class applauded in their various ways. Some clapped with hands, others with tentacles, and a few made musical tones of approval. Dr. Xanthara smiled with her 6 eyes. "The Academy Council is very pleased with the program's results. We have already had requests from 17 other medical schools to start similar courses. And the research partnership is producing remarkable results," she continued, looking at Vorthak's team. "Your hybrid techniques have already saved 43 lives across the galaxy." This was true. The new methods combining human manual skills with alien technology had been shared with hospitals throughout known space. Emergency teams that had never heard of CPR were now using modified versions to save patients of many different species. A chime sounded, indicating the end of class. As students began to pack up their equipment, Han-ji and Choi Bin entered the room. They were representatives from the Human Medical Corps who had come to study the Academy's new programs. "Professor Park," Han-ji said formally, "the Earth Medical Council has reviewed your work here. They are very impressed. They want to establish permanent exchange programs," Choi Bin added. "Human doctors will come here to learn alien medicine, and alien doctors will visit Earth to learn our techniques." This was exciting news. For centuries, human medicine had been considered primitive by galactic standards. Now it was being recognized as a valuable complement to advanced alien technology. "There is something else," Han-ji said, pulling out a crystal tablet. "You have been nominated for the Healer's Paradox Award." Hyun's eyes widened. The Healer's Paradox Award was the highest honor in galactic medicine. It was given to practitioners who achieved advanced results through seemingly simple means. The nomination was made jointly by 15 different species, Choi Bin explained. They all cited your work in combining manual techniques with advanced technology. 3 weeks later, Hyun found himself standing on a stage in the Great Assembly Hall of the Galactic Medical Congress. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds filled the massive chamber. Some sat in chairs, others floated in energy fields, and a few hung from the ceiling on silk threads. Rector Vashati approached the podium to present the award. In her hands was a crystal sculpture that seemed to contain swirling galaxies of light. The Healer's Paradox Award is given to those who remind us that wisdom often lies in simplicity, she announced telepathically to the assembled crowd. This year's recipient proved that sometimes the most sophisticated solution is knowing when to use your hands. She turned to face Hyun. Professor Park Hyun, your willingness to try ancient techniques when modern technology failed has revolutionized medicine across the galaxy. You have shown us that true advancement comes not from abandoning old knowledge, but from combining it with new understanding. As Hyun accepted the Crystal Award, he looked out at the audience. He could see his students from the academy, including Takeshi, Vara, and the architect students. Vorthak sat in the front row, his massive form taking up 3 seats. Thank you, Hyun said simply. This award belongs to all of us who believe that healing comes from understanding, not just from technology. Whether we use machines or hands, energy fields or herbs, the goal is always the same: to preserve life and reduce suffering. He held up his hands, showing the faint scars on his palms. These scars remind me that sometimes we must be willing to hurt ourselves to help others. That is what medicine is about: sacrifice in service of life. The audience erupted in sounds of approval from many species. Some clapped, others sang, and a few simply glowed brighter with emotion. Later, at the reception after the ceremony, Hyun was surrounded by doctors, students, and researchers from across the galaxy. They all wanted to know more about human medicine and how they could incorporate manual techniques into their own practices. Professor Park, said Dr. Milani, a renowned surgeon from the Coral Worlds, would you consider developing a training program for emergency response teams? We desperately need these skills in frontier medicine, added Dr. Vex, who treated patients in the Outer Rim territories where advanced equipment was scarce. As the evening continued, Hyun realized that his simple decision to use his hands had started something much larger than he had ever imagined. Medical schools throughout the galaxy were changing their curriculums. Emergency protocols were being rewritten. Ancient human knowledge was being combined with alien technology to create entirely new forms of healing. Vorthak approached him near the end of the reception. Life, brother, the Thraxian said quietly. Do you know what you have accomplished? I helped save your life, Hyun replied. That is enough for me. No, Vorthak shook his head. You showed the galaxy that wisdom comes in many forms. You taught proud species to be humble. You proved that cooperation is stronger than competition. He gestured toward the crowd of beings mingling and sharing knowledge. Look around. Doctors who have never spoken to each other are now working together. Technologies that were kept secret are being shared freely, all because one human was willing to get his hands dirty. As Hyun looked around the reception, he saw exactly what Vorthak meant. Researchers from rival species were collaborating on projects. Medical techniques were being shared across cultural boundaries. The galaxy's approach to healing was changing fundamentally. This is just the beginning, Dr. Xanthara said, joining their conversation. Your students are already developing new techniques we never imagined. The Nexari are using their multiple arms to perform complex procedures. The flowing ones are learning to heal energy-based injuries with physical touch. Even the architects are discovering that direct contact reveals information their crystals cannot provide. 6 months ago, Park Hyun had been a lonely human student in a galaxy that considered his people primitive. Now he was a professor teaching the most advanced medical minds in known space. His simple techniques had not only saved one life, they had transformed an entire field of knowledge. As he left the reception that night, Crystal Award in hand,